Get out, trash. Gitek?
Who is it?
Pack your things and leave.
What?
Get out, trash. The anniversary cake sat untouched between them. 6 candles still burning. Zuri's smile died mid-breath. Han Gi-taek, her husband of 6 years, stood in the doorway of their Gangnam apartment with another woman. Korean, beautiful, wearing the kind of confidence that comes from knowing you belong. Zuri looked at the table. The japchae she'd spent 3 hours learning to make, the homemade kimchi, the expensive watch wrapped in silver paper. 6 years of marriage. Her hand moved instinctively to her belly. 6 months pregnant. The baby they'd been trying for since their first anniversary. The miracle that had finally happened after 6 years of hoping, praying, wondering what was wrong with her body. Gitek? Her voice came out smaller than she intended. Who is? Her name is Choi Min-seo, he said flatly, not even looking at Zuri. Pack your things and leave. The room tilted. What? I said, get out. His voice was cold, precise, completely empty of anything that had ever resembled love. This is my apartment now. Mine and Min-seo's. Zuri looked at the food, the candles, the gift. 6 years? It's our anniversary. Get out, trash. The word landed, devastated, destroyed. 6 years of learning Korean until she dreamed in it. 6 years of cooking his mother's recipes until her hands knew them without thinking. 6 years of bowing at the right depth, speaking at the right volume, becoming smaller and smaller until she fit the shape he wanted. 6 years, and she was trash. Min-seo's mouth curved into something that might have been a smile. You actually cooked for him? How pathetic. Zuri's hand stayed on her belly, protective, disbelieving. Gi-taek, I'm pregnant with your child. That thing you're carrying? He finally looked at her, and his eyes were empty. Completely empty. I don't even know if it's mine. Something inside Zuri shattered glass in a silent room, breaking so completely she heard every piece hit the floor. Min-seo stepped closer, her voice dripping false sympathy. Don't worry, Appa. We'll start fresh. A proper family. The words carried exactly the cruelty intended. Zuri stumbled toward the door. Her coat. She needed her coat. Her hands were shaking too hard to grip the hanger. If you're not gone in 2 minutes, Gitek said, already turning away, already done with her, I'm calling the police. She made it to the hallway before the tears came. Made it to the elevator before her knees gave out.
Why is this happening
Made it to
me?
the street before she stopped, knowing where she was going. The Gangnam night was cold and wet. Rain had started soft at first, then heavier, soaking through her coat, her dress, everything. Zuri walked without direction, without purpose. Get out, trash. 6 years of her life, her entire 20s, gone. She'd come to Seoul at 19, young, grieving her father, wanting to be close to where Samuel Amadi had lived, worked, died. She'd met Gi-taek at a coffee shop near Itaewon. He'd seemed kind, interested in her father's work, respectful of her grief. They'd married within 6 months. She'd spent 6 years trying to be enough, learning, adapting, changing, and tonight she'd learned the truth. She would never be enough, because she was trash. Her father's necklace was cold against her skin. The one he'd given her at 16, 2 weeks before the Seoul Metropolitan Police called to say he'd been killed in the line of duty. Keep this safe, baby girl. Never lose it. She hadn't lost it, but she'd lost everything else. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out with shaking hands. A message from her mother. Happy anniversary, baby girl. 6 years. Your father would be so proud of the woman you've become. Love you. Zuri's vision blurred. The woman she'd become. A woman who cooked food for a man who called her trash. A woman who'd erased herself trying to fit into a world that would never accept her. A woman who was 6 months pregnant and homeless. What would her father think of that woman? The rain was relentless now. Her dress clung to her skin. Her pregnant belly was exposed to the cold when her coat fell open. She wasn't watching the road. She wasn't watching anything. She was thinking about 6 months ago. Atlanta, her grandmother's funeral. 2 weeks away from Seoul, from Gitayak, from the apartment that had never felt like home. And Elijah Grant, her father's former colleague, FBI agent, kind eyes and a gentle voice. And he'd known her father, really known him, in ways Gitayak never had. 2 weeks of feeling seen, feeling human, feeling like herself for the first time in years. 2 weeks of forgetting she was married to a man who barely touched her anymore. She'd come back to Seoul drowning in guilt. 3 weeks later, Elijah died in a car accident in Virginia. She'd grieved alone, unable to tell Gitayak why she was crying, unable to explain why the death of her father's colleague felt like losing a piece of herself. 2 months after that, she'd discovered she was pregnant. A miracle. After 6 years of trying. 6 years of wondering what was wrong with her body. 6 years of Gitayak's disappointed sighs every time her period came. Finally, a baby. She'd told Gitayak with tears of joy. He'd smiled, kissed her forehead, said all the right things. She'd never questioned the timing. Until now, standing in the rain, 6 months pregnant, kicked out like trash. The math clicked into place with horrible clarity. 6 months pregnant. Conceived 6 months ago. Atlanta was 6 months ago. Elijah. Oh God. The baby wasn't Gitayak's. The headlights appeared without warning. The black Genesis G90 hit her before she could process the realization that was reshaping her entire reality. She felt the impact, the pavement, the rain mixing with something warm. Blood. Her blood. Her hand on her belly. The baby. And then, nothing. The car that hit Zuri Ahmadi belonged to Cha Jin-wook, one of Seoul's most feared men, head of Haeon-mu-pa, the Black Tortoise Clan. Tall, broad-shouldered, his arms covered in traditional Korean dragon tattoos that marked him as someone ordinary people crossed the street to avoid. He was sitting in the back seat reviewing contracts when his driver slammed the brakes. "Boss, we hit someone." Jin-wook was already opening his door. Through the rain-streaked windshield, he saw her. A woman, crumpled on the wet pavement, pregnant, alone, bleeding. Her hand was still on her belly, even unconscious, protecting what she carried. "Sir, we should go," his driver said urgently. "We can't afford the attention." "Get her off the road." "Boss," I said, "get her in the car. Now." Something about the way she looked so broken, so completely abandoned in the cold Seoul rain, reached into a place inside him that very few things ever reached. He'd seen his mother look exactly like that once. 30 years ago. Pregnant, alone, broken. His grandfather had forced her to give up the baby. Forced her to marry his father instead. He'd watched it destroy her. He hadn't been able to save her then. He carried the woman to the vehicle himself. She was light, too light for someone 6 months pregnant. Her skin was cold. Her dress was soaked through. Blood on her temple. Blood on the pavement. But she was breathing. Jin-wook's jaw tightened. Hospital. Now. Boss, if anyone finds out, we hit her. They won't. Jin-wook's voice dropped to that quiet register that meant the conversation was over. Because I'm making sure she survives. Move. The driver obeyed. Jin-wook looked down at the unconscious woman in his arms. Rain dripped from her hair. Her father's necklace gleamed against her dark skin. Simple, delicate, meaningful, in a way he didn't yet understand. He didn't know her name yet. Didn't know she was carrying evidence that could destroy half of Seoul's underworld. Didn't know she'd been married to a Baekho operative.
Get her in!
Didn't
quick!
know her father had been Samuel
Go.
Amadi, the FBI agent who'd nearly brought down the entire Korean-American crime network 16 years ago. He just knew she was broken, and he was going to fix it. If something about this story already feels familiar, like you've lived parts of it, survived parts of it, you're in the right place. Welcome. And if it speaks to you, subscribe. 3 days later, Zuri woke in a private hospital room. Everything hurt. The doctor, middle-aged, kind-eyed, stood beside her bed. You were unconscious for 72 hours. Zuri's hand went to her belly. Your baby is stable. Strong heartbeat. The doctor paused. But according to the ultrasound, conception occurred approximately 6 months ago. Were you traveling during that time? Zuri's throat closed. 6 months ago. The doctor's carefully neutral expression told Zuri she'd already done the math. Already knew what the dates meant. I traveled, Zuri whispered, for a family emergency. I was in Atlanta for 2 weeks. I see. The doctor's voice was gentle, professional, non-judgmental. Is there any possibility the paternity is different than you've assumed? Zuri's hand went to her mouth. She'd known. Deep down, standing in the rain, she'd known. But hearing it confirmed made it real. Atlanta. Elijah. 2 weeks of feeling human. The baby they'd been trying for 6 years. The miracle that wasn't a miracle at all. Oh God, Zuri breathed. It's not his. Does your husband know about what happened in Atlanta? There was no affair, Zuri said quickly. Then stopped, because that was a lie. I mean, it wasn't. She couldn't explain. He doesn't know about any of it. I understand. This information remains confidential medical record unless you choose to disclose it. Zuri nodded numbly. The baby wasn't Gaitax. 6 years of marriage. 6 years of trying to conceive. 6 years of his disappointed sighs and her internalized shame. And the baby that finally came wasn't even his. The door opened. A man stepped inside, tall, intimidating, his arms covered in tattoos that marked him as someone from a world Zuri had only heard about in whispered warnings. Dragon scales wound around his forearms. Traditional Korean imagery mixed with something darker, more dangerous. Cha Jin-wook. He'd been standing outside her room. The door had been slightly open. He'd heard everything. Their eyes met. Does he know? Jin-wook asked, his voice low and even. Zuri shook her head. Good. Jin-wook's expression didn't change. Let him believe he abandoned his own blood. The truth would be a mercy he doesn't deserve. Zuri stared at this stranger, who'd apparently saved her life. Who are you? The man whose car hit you, Jin-wook said simply. And the man who's going to make sure you and your child survive. Why? He didn't answer immediately. Just looked at her with dark eyes that had seen too much and somehow still held something human underneath. Because someone should, he said finally. He turned to leave. Wait. Zuri's voice was stronger now. I don't even know your name. He paused at the door.
My name is Cha Jin-wook. You should rest.
Cha Jin-wook. The name meant nothing to her. It should have. Anyone who'd lived in Seoul for more than a few months knew that name, knew what it meant, knew to be afraid. But Zuri had spent 6 years in a Gangnam apartment cooking japchae and learning to bow properly and being the perfect wife for a man who'd called her trash. She had no idea she was looking at one of the most dangerous men in Seoul. She had no idea he'd just decided she was under his protection. She had no idea her entire life was about to change. Jin-wook closed the door behind him. His second-in-command, Baek Dong-soo, was waiting in the hallway, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Boss, Dong-soo said carefully, are you sure about this? Jin-wook looked at him. 20 years of friendship, 20 years of trust. His brother in everything but blood. She's under Hyun-Mupa protection now. She's a stranger. She's alone, pregnant, abandoned. Jin-wook's jaw tightened. And someone hit her with our car. That makes her our responsibility. Dong-soo's hand clenched briefly before he smoothed it. Of course, Jo-jang-nim. Jin-wook didn't notice the micro-expression, the flash of something that wasn't quite agreement. He was already making calls, arranging security, ensuring the woman Zuri, the doctor had said her name was Zuri, would have everything she needed. He didn't know why he cared. He just knew he did. Behind the closed door, Zuri touched her father's necklace. Keep this safe, baby girl. Never lose it. She hadn't lost it, but she'd lost everything else. Her marriage, her home, her certainty about who the father of her child was. She had nothing, except apparently the protection of a tattooed stranger who looked at her like she mattered. She didn't understand. She would. Zuri's parents arrived within hours. Samuel and Lorraine Amati had lived in Itaewon for 16 years, ever since the Seoul Metropolitan Police called Lorraine in the middle of the night to tell her that her husband, FBI liaison Samuel Amati, had been killed in the line of duty. Lorraine had refused to leave. I'm not running from the place that took him, she'd said. I'm staying to finish what he started. She'd opened a Nigerian restaurant on the edge of Itaewon's expat district, served jollof rice and egusi soup to homesick Africans and curious Koreans alike. Built a life from grief and stubbornness and the absolute refusal to let Samuel's death mean nothing. When Zuri had arrived in Seoul 6 years ago, 19 years old, freshly graduated, desperate to be near the place her father had loved Lorraine, had wept with relief. Her baby girl, finally home. Lorraine hadn't known her daughter was about to meet a man who would spend 6 years erasing everything Samuel had taught her about her worth. Now she stood in her daughter's hospital room and wept again. Baby girl. Lorraine's arms wrapped around Zuri carefully, mindful of the IV, the bruises, the life growing inside her. Baby girl. What happened? Zuri couldn't speak, just held her mother and let 6 years of trying to be strong enough finally break. Marcus Amati, tall, graying, carrying himself with the posture of a man who'd spent 20 years in federal law enforcement before semi-retiring to Seoul, stood at the foot of the bed. Samuel's younger brother, the Uncle Zuri, had grown close to over the past 6 years, the one family member in Seoul besides her mother. Uncle Marcus, Zuri whispered. He came to her side, took her hand. We're here, Zuri. We're right here. Where's Gitak? Lorraine asked, pulling back to look at her daughter's face. Where's your husband? Zuri's throat closed. Lorraine saw it immediately, read her daughter's face the way only mothers can. Oh, baby girl. What did he do? Before Zuri could answer, the door opened. Cha Jin-wook stepped inside. Lorraine moved instantly, positioned herself between this tattooed stranger and her daughter. Marcus's hand went to his hip in a motion that suggested he was used to carrying a weapon there. Jin-wook stopped, raised his hand slightly, non-threatening. I'm not here to harm her, he said in English. His accent was slight, his tone even. I'm here to make sure she has everything she needs. Who are you? Marcus's voice was quiet, controlled, dangerous in its own way. Cha Jin-wook. My car hit her 3 days ago. I've been ensuring she receives the best care. Your car hit my daughter and you think paying the hospital bill makes it right? Lorraine's voice shook with fury. No, Jin-wook said simply. Nothing makes it right. But I can make sure she survives it. That's what I'm doing. Marcus studied him. Former law enforcement instincts clearly still sharp. You're Hyun Mupa. It wasn't a question. Jin-wook's expression didn't change. Yes. And you just decided to help a woman you hit with your car out of the goodness of your heart? No, Jin-wook said. I decided to help her because she was alone in the rain, pregnant and bleeding, and no one else stopped. Silence. Then Marcus did something unexpected. He extended his hand. Then you're worth knowing. Jin-wook shook it. Firm, brief, an understanding passing between two men who recognized something in each other. Lorraine looked between them. Marcus. He's telling the truth, Lorraine. I can see it. He's a criminal. So was I once. Marcus's voice was quiet. Before the FBI cleaned me up and pointed me at better targets. I know what a man looks like when he's trying to do one good thing in a life full of bad ones. Jin-wook's jaw tightened slightly. The only indication the words had landed. She'll stay at the Cha compound when she's released, Jin-wook said. Private wing, full security, medical staff on call, whatever she needs. Absolutely not, Lorraine started. Mom. Zuri's voice was small but steady. I don't have anywhere else to go. The truth hung in the room. Gitak had kicked her out. The Gangnam apartment was his, the lease in his name, the furniture, his family's money. She had no home, no money of her own. Everything had been in joint accounts he'd surely already drained. 6 years of marriage and she had nothing to show for it but a baby that wasn't even his. You have us, Lorraine said fiercely. You always have us. Your restaurant is a studio apartment above a kitchen, Zuri said gently. There's barely room for you, and I'm about to have a baby. Lorraine's eyes filled with tears again. Jin-wook spoke into the silence. The offer stands. No obligations. You can leave whenever you choose, but while you're healing, you'll be safe. He left before anyone could argue further. In the hallway, Baek Dong-soo was waiting. "You're moving her into the compound," Dong-soo said. "Not a question." "Yes." "Boss, this is necessary." Jin-wook's voice dropped to that quiet register. "She has nowhere else, and she's under our protection now." Dong-soo cleaned his glasses slowly, deliberately. "Of course, Jo Jang-nim." Jin-wook walked past him, didn't see the way Dong-soo's hands clenched briefly before releasing. 20 years. He'd been Jin-wook's brother for 20 years. And in 3 days, this stranger, this woman, had gotten more consideration, more protection, more care than Dong-soo had seen Jin-wook show anyone in a decade. It meant something. Dong-soo just didn't know what yet, but he would find out. Back in the hospital room, Marcus sat beside Zuri's bed. "Your father," he said quietly, "he was working on something when he died. Do you know what it was?" Zuri shook her head. He was investigating connections between Korean organized crime and American networks. He'd gathered evidence, names, money trails, everything needed to bring down an operation that had been running for decades. "I know," Zuri whispered. "He told me a little before." "Did he give you anything? Any files? Any objects to keep safe?" Zuri's hand went instinctively to her necklace. Marcus saw the movement. His eyes sharpened. "That necklace. When did he give it to you?" "When I was 16, 2 weeks before he died." Zuri's fingers closed around the pendant. "He said to keep it safe, never lose it." Marcus nodded slowly. "And you haven't." "It's just a necklace." "Zuri." Marcus leaned forward. "Your father was one of the most brilliant investigators I've ever known. If he told you to keep something safe, he meant it. Don't let anyone take that from you. Not your husband, not anyone. Understand?" "I don't." "Just promise me." "I promise." Marcus stood, kissed her forehead. "Get some rest. We'll figure this out." After he left, Zuri touched the necklace again. "Keep this safe, baby girl. Never lose it." 6 years she'd worn it. 6 years thinking it was just sentiment, just a memory of her father. What if it wasn't? What if the necklace was more than she'd ever understood? What if her father had been protecting her all along? 2 weeks later, Zuri moved into the Cha compound in Hanamdong. The estate was massive traditional Hanok architecture on the exterior, mixed with security technology that made it look like a fortress disguised as a cultural heritage site.
Welcome. If you need anything, just let me know.
Thank you.
Of course.
Jin-wook showed her to a private wing himself. "This is yours," he said, opening the door to rooms that were larger than the entire Gangnam apartment she'd shared with Gi Taek for 6 years. Bedroom, sitting room, private bath. Small kitchen if you want to cook for yourself, though we have staff. Everything was beautiful, expensive, but somehow not cold. Warm wood, soft textiles, windows that looked out on a private garden. "I can't pay for this," Zuri said quietly. "I'm not asking you to." "Then why are you doing this?" Jin-wook was quiet for a long moment. Then, "My mother was pregnant once, with another man's child, someone she loved. My grandfather forced her to give the baby up. Forced her to marry my father instead, a man she'd never met, never chosen. His jaw tightened. She spent 30 years in a loveless marriage, raising a son who reminded her every day of what she'd lost. I watched it destroy her slowly, piece by piece. He looked at Zuri, really looked at her. You're pregnant, alone, cast out from a marriage that should have protected you. I have the power to make sure you're not destroyed by it, so I will. Before Zuri could respond, he was gone. She stood in the beautiful empty rooms and felt the weight of his words. He was saving her because he couldn't save his mother. She was a ghost he was trying to make right. That night, Zuri couldn't sleep. She wandered the compound gardens at 3 a.m. Traditional stone paths, carefully maintained trees, everything beautiful and alive despite the late hour. She found Jinwook in the garden. He was smoking. Rare for him, she'd learn later he only smoked when the weight of Hyun Mupa pressed too hard, when sleep felt impossible. You should be resting, he said without turning around. So should you. He smiled slightly. I don't rest. Zuri sat on the stone bench near him, not too close, but not distant either. Thank you, she said, for this, for everything. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. They sat in silence. The Seoul night was cold but clear. No rain, just stars and the distant sound of the city that never really slept. Can I ask you something? Zuri said finally. Yes. That man, Baek Dong-soo, your second in command. He doesn't like me being here. Jinwook's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Dong-soo is protective of Hyun Pa, of me. He sees threats everywhere. And he thinks I'm a threat. He thinks anyone I care about is a vulnerability. The words hung between them. Anyone I care about. Jinwook seemed to realize what he'd said. He took another drag of his cigarette. Didn't take it back. You barely know me, Zuri said softly. No? Jinwook agreed. But I'm learning. He stubbed out the cigarette. Stood. Get some sleep. Tomorrow my doctor will check on the baby. Make sure everything is progressing well after the accident. He walked away before she could respond. Zuri sat alone in the garden and touched her necklace. She didn't know it yet, but Jinwook's tech specialist had already scanned it during her hospital stay, had already found the military-grade encrypted microchip embedded in the pendant, had already told Jinwook that she was carrying something that could destroy half of Seoul's criminal networks. She didn't know that Baek Dong-soo was already making calls to people who wanted that chip, already positioning himself for the betrayal that would come. She didn't know that Han Gi-taek had been planted in her life 6 years ago, that he'd spent 2 years researching her before they'd ever accidentally met at that coffee shop, that their entire relationship had been an operation from the very first smile. She just knew she was safe for the first time in weeks. And the tattooed stranger who'd saved her life was looking at her like she mattered. It was enough. For now, 6 weeks passed. Zuri's belly grew. The baby kicked stronger now. Her mother visited daily, bringing jollof rice and puff-puff and the kind of love that required no translation. Marcus came weekly. Always asked about the necklace, always reminded her to keep it safe, never explained why it mattered so much. And Jinwook. Jinwook was there. Not always visible, but always present. She'd find coffee exactly how she liked it, waiting in the kitchen, 2 sugars, real cream, the expensive kind. Books in English appearing on her nightstand, mysteries and thrillers, things she'd mentioned loving once in passing. The staff, knowing she preferred her eggs, scrambled before she'd ever told them. He was watching, learning, caring in ways that didn't require words. One evening, Zuri was cooking in the main kitchen. The staff had been horrified. "You don't need to cook, ma'am. Please let us." But cooking made her feel human, made her feel like herself, again after 6 years of losing herself piece by piece. She was making jollof rice. The scent of tomatoes and peppers and her mother's spice blend filled the enormous kitchen. Memories of Atlanta, of her grandmother's funeral, of Elijah sitting at the kitchen table watching her cook this exact dish, saying it smelled like home even though he'd never been to Nigeria. Elijah, the father of her baby, dead before he ever knew. Jinwook appeared in the doorway. "That smells." He paused, searching for words. "Alive." Zuri laughed, despite the ache in her chest. "It's just rice." "No." He stepped closer. "It's more than that." She looked at him, really looked. He was in a simple black shirt, no suit, no armor. His dragon tattoos visible on his forearms, the scales seeming to move in the kitchen light. His hair slightly mussed, like he'd been running his hands through it. He looked almost human. "You should taste it," she said. "Make sure I didn't ruin it." She held out the spoon. Jinwook stepped forward. Let her feed him. The moment stretched. His eyes met hers, dark, intense. Something shifting beneath the careful control he always maintained. "It's perfect," he said quietly. Neither of them moved. The kitchen was warm. The food was fragrant. And something neither of them had permission to feel was building in the space between them. Zuri's breath caught. Jinwook's hand came up slowly, touched her face, just barely, like she might break. "This can't happen," he said. But he didn't pull away. "I know," Zuri whispered. His thumb traced her cheekbone. "You're pregnant with another man's child. You're healing from a marriage that destroyed you. And I'm dangerous." "Yes, I know that too." "Then why are you not running?" Jinwook asked. "Because you're the first person in 6 years who made me feel like I wasn't trash." His jaw tightened. "You were never trash," he said. He was wrong. Jinwook's hand dropped. He stepped back. The moment broke. "I should go," he said. But he didn't. The tension crackled between them. Impossible. Forbidden. Undeniable. Then his phone rang. Jinwook answered. Listened. His expression went stone. "When?" A pause. "I'm on my way." He looked at Zuri. "Stay here. Don't leave the compound. Don't open the door for anyone except my men or your family." "What's happening?" "Baek Ho just moved on 3 of our territories simultaneously. This is coordinated. This is war." He was already moving toward the door. "Jinwook." He turned back. "Be careful," she said. Something softened in his expression, just for a moment. "I will." Then he was gone. Zuri stood alone in the kitchen. Her jollof rice was burning. She turned off the stove, touched her belly. Everything was about to change. She could feel it. The attack came at midnight. Zuri was asleep when the alarms went off. She jolted awake. The compound was suddenly alive with movement men running, weapons being readied, Jin-wook's voice somewhere giving rapid commands in Korean. She stayed in her room like he'd told her, until she heard the gunshots. Close, too close. Her door burst open. Not Jin-wook's men. Strangers. 3 of them. Weapons drawn. Moving with military precision. "Where's the necklace?" The leader spoke English. Accented but clear. "Samuel Amati's daughter. The evidence. Where is it?" Zuri's hand went to her throat. The necklace was there. Always there. "I don't know what you—" "Don't lie." The man grabbed her, pulled her to her feet roughly. Her pregnant belly made her clumsy. She stumbled. "We know who you are. We know what your father hid. Where is it?" Her father. The evidence. The necklace. Everything clicked into place with horrible clarity. "Keep this safe, baby girl. Never lose it." He hadn't been talking about the necklace itself. He'd been talking about what was inside it. "I don't have anything." The man put a gun to her head. "Leave her alone." Jin-wook's voice. He stood in the doorway, weapon drawn. Blood on his shirt, not his, she thought, hoped. His face was cold, empty, the face of the black tortoise. The man holding Zuri put the gun harder against her temple. "Drop it, or she dies." Jin-wook's eyes met Zuri's. She saw the calculation, the assessment, the choice being made. He lowered his weapon. Let her go. The necklace first. Zuri's hands shook as she removed it. 6 years. No, 16 years. She'd worn it for 16 years. Since she was 10 years old and her father had come home from Seoul one last time before the assignment that would kill him. "Keep this safe, baby girl. Never lose it." She was about to lose it. The man grabbed it, examined it quickly, found the clasp that wasn't quite right, the tiny seam she'd never noticed, never thought to question. He opened it. Inside the pendant, a microchip, tiny, deadly. "Got it," he said into his comm. "Extraction now." They started to leave. Jin-wook moved. Fast, brutal, efficient, the way a man moves when he's been a weapon since he was 17 years old. When violence is a language he speaks more fluently than love. 3 men, down in seconds. But not before one of them fired. The bullet caught Jin-wook in the shoulder. He didn't stop, didn't slow, just finished the job with red blooming across his shirt. Then he picked up the necklace from where it had fallen. The chain was broken. The pendant cracked. He held it out to Zuri. "Your father was protecting you," he said. Blood was seeping through his shirt, spreading. "This is why they married you. This is what they wanted all along." Zuri took the necklace with shaking hands. The pendant fell open fully now, empty. The chip was gone. One of the men had taken it before Jin-wook killed them. No, not killed. She looked. The men were breathing. Unconscious, disarmed, but alive. Jin-wook had taken them down without killing them, even wounded, even protecting her. He'd shown restraint. "Gitaik," her voice was barely a whisper, "was a Baekho operative planted in your life 6 years ago." Jin-wook swayed slightly. The blood loss was catching up. Your entire marriage was a mission to find that chip. The room spun. 6 years. Every kiss, every smile, every anniversary dinner she'd cooked. Every moment. A lie. A performance. An operation. Jin Wook swayed again, more pronounced this time. You're hurt. I'm fine. You're bleeding. Zuri. He caught her face in his hands, blood on his fingers, desperation in his eyes. You need to understand. Everyone knows now about the necklace, about what you carry, what you carried. You'll never be safe unless we end this. How? We use it. We find where they took the chip. We expose everything. We destroy Baek-ho completely. That could take months. Or we could do it my way. Fast. Brutal. Final. What way is that? War. Zuri looked at him. This dangerous man who'd saved her life, who'd given her safety when she had nothing, who looked at her pregnant belly like it mattered that she was carrying another man's child, who'd just taken a bullet protecting her. Then we go to war, she said. Jin Wook smiled. Dark, dangerous, proud. My queen, he said softly, and kissed her. Finally, desperately. The taste of blood and smoke and something neither of them could name but both of them felt. 6 weeks of dancing around this moment. 6 weeks of this can't happen. It was happening. When they pulled apart, his men were flooding into the room, Dong-soo among them. He saw Jin Wook's hand on Zuri's face, saw the kiss neither of them had fully broken, saw the blood and the bodies and the woman who'd just become the most important thing to his boss. His expression went carefully blank. Boss, he said, we need to secure the compound. Find out how they got past our security. Do it. Jin Wook didn't let go of Zuri. And find out who let them in. Someone betrayed us tonight. Dong-soo's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Of course, Jo Jang-nim. He left, but not before his eyes met Zuri's. She saw it then. Hatred. Pure, cold, absolute. Baek Dong-soo hated her. And she'd just become the most important thing to the man Dong-soo considered his. This wouldn't end well. But right now, with Jin Wook's blood on her hands and his kiss still burning on her lips and war declared against the people who'd stolen 6 years of her life, Zuri didn't care. She'd been trash. She was becoming a queen. And queens didn't run from war. They waged it. The first family dinner happened 1 week after the attack. Jin Wook warned her, my family will be difficult. Zuri had spent 6 years being difficult for Gitaek standards. She thought she understood. She didn't. The Cha family dining room was traditional. Low table, cushions on heated floors, everything precisely arranged according to rules Zuri was only beginning to understand. Madam Cha Hae-jin sat at the head. 70 years old, spine straight as steel, wearing a hanbok that probably cost more than Zuri had earned in her entire life. Her eyes were sharp, assessing, cold. Jin Wook's father was dead, had been, for 5 years. But his mother ruled Hyunmoo-pa's traditional hierarchy with absolute authority. She looked at Zuri, the way someone looks at trash. They're too polite to mention directly. You're the American. Madam Cha spoke in Korean, formal, distant. Yes, ma'am, Zuri bowed. Lower than necessary. Trying too hard already and knowing it. You speak Korean. I'm learning. Badly. Madam Cha's tone was light. The insult landed anyway. Jin Wook's jaw ticked. Mother! She's pregnant. Madam Cha ignored her son, stared at Zuri's belly like it was evidence of crime. With whose child? The room went silent. Zuri's hands were cold. They were always cold now. Jin Wook had noticed, started keeping hand warmers in his pockets for her without being asked. Mine, Jin Wook said quietly. Dangerously. Madam Cha's eyes narrowed. Don't lie to me, Jin Wook. I know when you're lying. The informal speech. The childhood name. A mother's weapon. The child isn't biologically mine, Jin Wook said. His voice was steel. But she's under my protection. That makes the baby mine. Anyone who questions that questions me. Madam Cha studied her son, then looked back at Zuri. You understand. You don't belong here. Yes, ma'am. You understand. You never will. Zuri's chin lifted, just slightly. She couldn't help it. With respect, ma'am, I spent 6 years trying to belong somewhere I wasn't wanted. I learned what belonging actually costs. She met Madam Cha's eyes. I'm not here to belong. I'm here because your son offered me safety when I had none. I'm grateful, but I'm not performing anymore. Silence. Then Madam Cha did something unexpected. She smiled. Thin, sharp, but genuine. At least you have spine. She lifted her teacup. That's more than most women who sit at this table. The dinner continued, tense, careful, but Zuri had survived. After, Jin Wook found her in the garden. You did well. She hates me. She hates everyone. He handed her a hand warmer. But she respects strength. You showed her strength. Zuri took the warmer. Her fingers were freezing. How did you know my hands were cold? I noticed things about you. The way he said it made her breath catch. Jin Wook, I have a meeting. Business. You should see it. Why? Because you're asking questions about our systems, about security, about how things work. His eyes were steady on hers. You're too smart to be satisfied with not knowing, so I'll show you. 30 minutes later, Zuri sat in the corner of a conference room and watched Cha Jin Wook conduct business. He was different. The man who touched her face gently disappeared. In his place, the black tortoise. Voice cold, commands precise. When a subordinate hesitated, Jin Wook's silence was more terrifying than anger. He adjusted his cufflinks once, slight, controlled. The subordinate paled, bowed, left immediately. What was that? Zuri asked after. He was skimming. I gave him a chance to confess. The cufflinks. A tell. Everyone in Hyun-Mupa knows. When I adjust my cufflinks, someone's about to have a very bad day. What happens to him? He'll return what he stole, with interest, and he'll spend 6 months in our least comfortable position. Jin Wook's voice was matter-of-fact, or I could remove his hands. He should be grateful I'm being lenient. Zuri stared at him. This was who Jin Wook was. Under the tenderness, under the care, a weapon. Does this frighten you? He asked quietly. Yes. Good. You should be afraid of me. I'm not afraid of you. Zuri stood, walked to where he sat. I'm afraid of becoming someone who thinks this is normal, who accepts violence as business, who... She trailed off. Who what? Who falls in love with a man capable of removing someone's hands for stealing? The words hung between them. Jin Wook stood slowly, Are you falling in love with me? I don't know, Zuri whispered. Are you falling in love with me? I was in love with you the moment I saw you in the rain. His hand came up, touched her face. I just didn't have permission to admit it yet. And now? Now I'm asking for permission. Zuri's breath shook. This is dangerous. Everything about me is dangerous. I'm carrying another man's child. I know. I'm broken from 6 years of marriage that was a lie. I know that too. Then why? Because broken things can heal, Jinwook said. And you're the first thing in my life that's made me want to be more than a weapon. Before Zuri could respond, his phone rang. He answered, listened. His expression shifted. You're certain? A pause. Show me the footage. He looked at Zuri. The trap worked. We know who let the attackers in. Who? Dong-soo. Zuri had suggested it 3 days ago. She'd noticed the pattern. Every security breach, every leak, every attack, all of them happened within hours of Jinwook discussing plans with Baek Dong-soo. Jinwook hadn't wanted to believe her, but he'd set the trap anyway. False information, told only to Dong-soo. A fabricated shipment route. Baek Ho attacked the fake location. The proof was undeniable. What now? Zuri asked. Jinwook's face was stone. Now I confront my brother. That night, Zuri couldn't sleep. She found herself counting in Korean. A habit from the past 6 years. When stress overwhelmed her, she'd count. Hana, dul, set, net, daseot. It calmed her, gave her brain something to control when everything else was chaos. She was up to 53 when Jinwook appeared in her doorway. You're counting. It helps me think. What are you thinking about? Everything, Zuri gestured at the compound around them. Your world, your family, your business. I'm trying to understand how it all works. Why? Because I'm not just going to survive this, Zuri said quietly. I'm going to master it. And to do that, I need to understand your systems, your security, your networks. Jinwook studied her. You want access to my servers? Yes. Why? Because knowledge is power, and I'm done being powerless. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I'll give you a secure login, limited access. But Zuri, I know. Be careful. Don't get caught. Trust no one. I was going to say, don't underestimate yourself. You're more dangerous than you realize. After he left, Zuri sat at the computer in her room. The login credentials Jinwook gave her worked. She started researching. Not the evidence her father had gathered that was gone, taken by the attackers, but Jinwook's systems, his security protocols, his network architecture. If she was going to survive this world, she needed to understand it. And if she was going to bring down the people who'd stolen 6 years of her life, she needed to be smarter than they expected. 3 hours later, she found something. Jinwook's tech specialist had made a full backup of the necklace's encrypted data before the attack. The evidence wasn't lost. It was right here. Zuri stared at the files. Her father's life work. 16 years of investigation. Names, bank records, recordings. Everything needed to destroy Baek Ho completely. Jinwook didn't know the backup existed. Or if he did, He hadn't told her. She copied the files to a secure USB drive, hid it, just in case, because she'd learned something from 6 years of marriage to a man who'd lied about everything. Trust, but verify, and never put all your power in someone else's hands. Even if that someone was a man who looked at her like she was worth dying for. The next morning, Baek Dong-soo came to Jin Wook's office. Zuri watched from the security feed Jin Wook had shown her how to access. "You wanted to see me, boss?" Jin Wook didn't look up from his desk. "Sit." Dong-soo sat. Jin Wook slid a folder across the desk. Surveillance photos, call logs, bank transfers. Dong-soo's face went blank. 20 years, Jin Wook said quietly. I trusted you with everything. Don't insult me by lying. Dong-soo smiled. You chose her over me. This isn't about her. Everything is about her. 20 years I've been your brother. 6 weeks and she became more important than I ever was. His voice went cold. Love makes you weak. Your father knew it. Every leader who's fallen has fallen because of a woman. I'm choosing to be human instead of a weapon. Something you stopped understanding long ago. What now? You kill me? You disappear. Tonight. Leave Korea. If I see you again, I won't hesitate. 20 years buys me my life? Nothing more. Dong-soo walked to the door. She'll destroy you. Love always does. Maybe. But I'd rather be destroyed by love than live as a weapon forever. Zuri watched the whole thing from the security feed. Her hands were shaking. She'd expected violence, death. The brutal efficiency she'd seen Jin Wook employ before. Instead, he'd shown mercy to a man who'd betrayed him because of 20 years of brotherhood, because some part of Jin Wook still believed in redemption. She didn't know it yet, but Dong-soo wouldn't leave. He'd make one final move, one last attempt to prove love made people weak. And Zuri would be the one who'd have to stop him. But tonight, she just sat in her room and understood something new about the man she was falling in love with. He was a weapon who was learning to be human. And she was human, learning to be a weapon. Maybe together, they'd find something in between. Something that could survive. Jin Wook's tech specialist worked through the night. 3 days after finding the backup files, he cracked the military-grade encryption. Jin Wook stood in the secure server room, staring at 16 years of evidence on the screen. Names he recognized, families he'd grown up knowing, operations that stretched from Seoul to Los Angeles, bank accounts, wire transfers, recordings of meetings where men in expensive suits discussed human lives like inventory. His own family's name appeared 14 times. His father. Transactions from before Jin Wook was born. Yeon-mu Pa wasn't just connected to the network Samuel Amadi had investigated. They'd helped build it. Boss, his tech specialist said carefully, if this goes public, Yeon-mu Pa burns with everyone else. Jin Wook's voice was flat. What do you want me to do with it? Jin Wook looked at the screen for a long moment. Then he pulled out a lighter. Delete everything. Destroy the hardware. Burn the backups. Boss, she'll never be safe if this exists. Every intelligence agency, every crime family, every opportunist in 3 countries will hunt her. Jin Wook's jaw tightened. I'd rather let guilty men walk than watch her die for evidence she didn't choose to carry. The tech specialist hesitated, then nodded. I'll wipe it completely. It'll take 6 hours. Do it. Jin-wook walked to Zuri's wing. She was awake, sitting at her computer. She closed the window quickly when he entered. Can't sleep? He asked. Too much on my mind. He sat beside her. I need to tell you something. The backup files. His eyes sharpened. You know about them? I found them 3 days ago when you gave me system access. Zuri's voice was steady. I've been waiting to see what you do with them. I'm destroying them. I know. You're not going to try to stop me? No. Zuri turned to face him fully. Because I already copied them. Silence. Jin-wook stared at her. Then he threw his head back and laughed. Real, genuine. The sound of a man completely outmaneuvered by someone he'd underestimated. You played me. I learned from you, Zuri said quietly. Trust, but verify. Never put all your power in someone else's hands. When? The night you showed me your security systems. I saw the backup, copied it, encrypted it with my own protocols. She pulled a USB drive from her pocket. 16 years of my father's work. Everything needed to destroy Baekho and everyone connected to them, including Hyunmupa. Yes. So what now? Jin-wook asked. You use it? Burn my family to bring down theirs? That depends. Zuri met his eyes. Are you going to try to stop me? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, no. No? You're the most dangerous woman I've ever met, Jin-wook said softly. And I'm completely in love with you. So, if you want to burn it all down, I'll hand you the matches. My mom said I'd never reach 1K subscribers telling stories this raw. She said nobody wants to feel this much. If she's wrong, if stories like this matter to you, subscribe. Help me prove that truth and pain and healing still mean something. I don't want to burn it all down, Zuri whispered. I want justice. There's a difference. What's the difference? Justice means the people who deserve to fall, fall. The people who were forced into this system, who want out, they get the chance. She looked at the USB drive. Your father's dead. You're trying to change Hyunmupa. That matters. And Baekho? They hunted me for 16 years. They planted a man in my life for 6 years. They tried to kill me while I was pregnant. Zuri's voice was steel. They burn. Jin-wook pulled her close. Then we burn them together. There's more you need to know. About Gitek? I had Marcus dig into the marriage timeline, into everything. Zuri's hands were shaking. Gitek had a vasectomy 6 months after we married. He reversed it 7 months ago, right before Baekho ordered the final phase. Jin-wook went very still. He prevented pregnancy for 6 years, on purpose. The mission was to find the evidence first. Only after 6 years of failure did they order him to secure me permanently through pregnancy. Zuri's voice broke. I thought I was broken. I blamed my body. I internalized 6 years of shame for something he was doing deliberately. Zuri, he stole 6 years of my fertility. 6 years when I could have had children with someone who actually wanted them. And the baby that finally came wasn't even his. Jin-wook pulled her against his chest. Let her cry. Let her rage. Let her break. He was never going to let me get pregnant, she whispered, because pregnancy would have meant I mattered, that I was building something real, and I was never real to him. I was always just a mission. You're real to me. I know. And the baby you're carrying? Jinwook's hand covered her belly. She's real to me, too. Zuri pulled back, looked at him. You keep saying she? I know. The doctors won't tell us for another month. I know it's a girl. Jinwook's hand was gentle on her stomach. I can feel it. And if you're wrong, then I'm wrong. But I'm not. Zuri smiled, despite the tears. What would we name her? Grace, Jinwook said immediately. Grace, Diane. After your mother, and the grace we were given. We? You think I'm letting you do this alone? Jinwook's thumb brushed away her tears. I'm in this. Completely. The baby. The evidence. The war. All of it. Even if it destroys Hyun Mupa? Hyun Mupa was built on blood money and broken people. Maybe it's time to build something better. Zuri kissed him. Soft, certain. Choosing him with full knowledge of what he was and what she was becoming. When they pulled apart, Jinwook's phone was ringing. He answered, listened. His expression went dark. When? A pause. I'm on my way. He looked at Zuri. Dong-soo didn't leave Seoul. He just made contact with Baek-ho. He's offered them something. What? You. Baek Dong-soo stood alone in his apartment. The photograph was in his hands. 20 years old, faded at the edges. An 18-year-old Jinwook, blood-soaked, leaning against a wall. 17-year-old Dong-soo pressing hands against the bullet wound, keeping him alive while they waited for extraction. Young, Jinwook had whispered. I'd be dead without you. Dong-soo had believed that meant something, that saving someone's life earned you a permanent place in theirs. That 20 years of brotherhood couldn't be erased by 6 weeks of a woman's presence. He'd been wrong. He put the photograph in his jacket pocket, made the call. I know where she keeps the evidence. I know how to get to her. And I know Jinwook will come alone if you threaten her. The price Baek-ho offered was enough to disappear. Start over somewhere Jinwook's reach didn't extend. Dong-soo took it. Not for the money, for the satisfaction of proving he'd been right all along. Love made you weak. And tonight, Jinwook would learn that lesson. The warehouse was in Incheon, industrial district, abandoned for years. Jinwook went alone. Zuri had begged him not to, had argued, had threatened to follow. He'd kissed her. If I don't come back, you know what to do with the evidence. Don't talk like that. Promise me. Jinwook, promise. I promise. He'd left her with Marcus and his mother at the compound. Protected, guarded. But Zuri had never been good at following orders. She waited 10 minutes. Then she followed. Inside the warehouse, Jinwook found Dong-soo waiting. No Baek-ho operatives, no backup. Just his brother, and 2 weapons on the table between them. You came, Dong-soo said. You knew I would. For her, not for me. For both of you. Jinwook's voice was quiet. I gave you a chance to leave. Why are you still here? Because you need to understand what you've become. Dong-soo picked up one of the weapons, slid the other across to Jinwook. You were the Black Tortoise. the most feared man in Seoul, and she turned you into something weak. Loving someone isn't weakness. It's the only weakness that matters. Dong-su's hand tightened on the weapon. Your father knew it. That's why he never loved anyone. That's why Hyun-Moo-pa survived. My father died alone and hated. Is that what you want from me? I want you to be what you were before her. I can't go back to that, Jin-wook said. I don't want to. Then I'll make the choice for you. Dong-su moved. 20 years of training together meant they knew each other's patterns. Every feint, every counter. The fight was brutal. Close quarters, personal. Jin-wook was faster, but Dong-su was desperate. Desperation makes people dangerous. The blade caught Jin-wook below the ribs. Deep, precise. 20 years of knowing exactly where to strike. Jin-wook gasped, stumbled back. Blood spread across his shirt. Too much, too fast. Dong-su stood over him. You chose her over everything. Over me, over Hyun-Moo-pa, over the empire we built together. I chose to be human. Jin-wook's voice was fading. Something you forgot how to be. Then die human. Dong-su raised the blade. The gunshot echoed through the warehouse. Dong-su's eyes went wide. He looked down at the wound spreading across his chest, then at the doorway. Zuri stood there, weapon in shaking hands, eyes wide with horror at what she'd just done. You, Dong-su coughed, blood on his lips. You crossed the line. You were going to kill him. Zuri's voice broke. I couldn't let you. Dong-su fell. Zuri dropped the weapon, ran to Jin-wook. Stay with me. Her hands pressed against the wound. Blood soaked through immediately. Please stay with me. You followed me. Of course I followed you. Tears were streaming down her face. You think I'd let you die alone? Stubborn. Hypocrite. Jin-wook smiled, coughed. Blood flecked his lips. Jin-wook, no. Sarang-hae, he whispered. I love you. In Korean. The first time he'd said it in his own language. His eyes closed. Zuri screamed for help. Behind her, Dong-su's breathing was slowing, stopping. She'd taken a life to save another. Crossed a line she'd sworn she'd never cross. Became something she'd never wanted to be. For love. The hospital was private. Jin-wook's doctor worked through the night. Zuri sat in the waiting room. Dong-su's blood still on her hands. Jin-wook's blood soaked into her clothes. Marcus found her there at 4 a.m. He's stable, Marcus said quietly. The surgery went well. He'll recover. Zuri nodded numbly. And Dong-su? Dead. Before the ambulance arrived. Zuri's hands started shaking. She stared at them, at the blood. I killed him. You saved Jin-wook. I became a killer. You became a survivor. Marcus sat beside her. There's a difference. Is there? Zuri whispered. I looked into his eyes. I pulled the trigger. I watched him fall. Where's the line, Uncle Marcus? Where's the line between justice and murder? Between protection and violence? Between love and... She couldn't finish. Marcus took her hands. The line is intention. You didn't want to kill him. You wanted to save Jin-wook. That's the difference. But he's still dead. Yes, because of me. because of his choices. Marcus's voice was firm. He made 20 decisions that led him to that warehouse. You made one decision to save the man you love. Don't carry his choices as your burden. But Zuri would carry it anyway. She could feel it settling into her bones, the weight of a life taken, the knowledge that she was capable of killing. That love had made her capable of anything. Even this. Jin-wook woke 6 hours later. Zuri was beside his bed, eyes red, hands finally clean but still shaking. "You're alive," she whispered. "You saved me. I killed him." "I know." "Jin-wook, Her voice broke. "I looked at him and I pulled the trigger, and I didn't hesitate. What does that make me?" "Human," Jin-wook said. He reached for her hand, despite the pain. "Love doesn't make us weak. It makes us dangerous. There's a difference. I don't feel dangerous. I feel broken." "Then we're broken together." Zuri pressed her forehead to his hand. "I can't lose you." "You won't. You don't know that." "I know that I'm not leaving you. Not for Dong-su. Not for Baeko. Not for anything." His fingers tightened on hers. "We finish this. Together." A knock on the door. Jin-wook's attendant entered, bowed. "Jojang Nim, your mother requests to see Miss Amati. Alone. She says it's urgent." Jin-wook looked at Zuri. "You don't have to." "I'll go. She'll be cruel. I've survived worse." But when Zuri entered Madame Cha's private room, the matriarch wasn't cruel. She was dying. The cancer had spread. The doctors had given her weeks, maybe days. "Sit," Madame Cha said. Her voice was weaker than it had been at the dinner. "We need to talk." Zuri sat. "My son loves you. I love him too." "That's not enough." Madame Cha's eyes were sharp, despite her weakness. "Love isn't enough to survive this world. You need to be stronger than love, smarter than love. You need to be ruthless. I just killed a man to save your son. How much more ruthless do I need to be?" Madame Cha smiled, thin, approving. "Good, you're learning." She reached for something on the nightstand. A jade bracelet, old, beautiful, heavy with history. This was my mother's, and her mother's before that. It's given to the women who earn their place in this family. She held it out. Zuri stared. "You said I'd never belong here." "I lied." Madame Cha's hand was steady despite everything. "You belong because you fought for it, because you're strong enough to love my son without losing yourself, because you killed to protect him, and you're brave enough to carry that weight." "I don't understand." 30 years ago, I loved a man, a black American soldier stationed in Seoul. I was pregnant with his child. My family forced me to give the baby up, forced me to marry Jin-wook's father, a man I never chose, never loved. Zuri's breath caught. I spent 30 years in a loveless marriage. I hated you because you had the courage to choose love when I never did. Madame Cha's voice cracked. "Don't make my mistakes. Don't let anyone make him choose between love and duty. Make him keep both." She pressed the bracelet into Zuri's hands. "He already has," Zuri whispered. "He chose both. Because of you. Because you showed him what happens when you only choose duty." Madame Cha's eyes filled with tears. "Then maybe I didn't fail completely." "You didn't fail at all. You raised a man who knows how to love." The matriarch smiled, closed her eyes. "Thank you." she breathed. She died an hour later, peacefully, having finally spoken the truth she'd carried for 30 years, having given her blessing to the woman she'd once hated, having made peace with the daughter-in-law who would carry on what she couldn't. Zuri wore the jade bracelet to tell Jinwook his mother was gone. He looked at her wrist, understood immediately, and wept. For the mother who'd finally chosen love at the very end, for the brother he'd lost, for everything that had brought them to this moment. Zuri held him while he broke, the way he'd held her, partners in survival, in grief, in love, in war. Jinwook was released from the hospital 3 days later. His shoulder was bandaged, arm in a sling, movements careful. But he was alive. Zuri brought him home to a compound that felt different. Madame Cha's absence changed the air, made everything quieter, heavier. The funeral was private, traditional. Jinwook stood through the entire ceremony despite the pain, because that's what the Jojang Nim did. Zuri stood beside him, the jade bracelet heavy on her wrist. Afterward, she found him in his mother's garden. The cherry blossoms were blooming, late spring in Seoul, everything coming back to life while they buried the dead. She would have liked this, Jinwook said quietly. The blossoms. She always loved spring. Zuri took his hand. The good one. Laced their fingers together. She gave me her blessing at the end. I know. You're wearing her bracelet. Did you know? About the soldier? About the baby she gave up? I suspected. Jinwook's jaw tightened. She used to stare at me sometimes, like I was a ghost, like I reminded her of someone else. I think I looked like the child she lost. I'm sorry. Don't be. She made her choices. She lived with them. And at the end, she chose differently. He looked at Zuri. Because of you. Before Zuri could respond, Marcus appeared at the garden entrance. His face was grim. We have a problem. They followed him to Jinwook's office. Marcus pulled up security footage. This was taken 4 hours ago. Itaewon, your mother's restaurant. The video showed Lorraine closing up for the night, locking the door, walking to her car. A van pulled up, 3 men got out. Lorraine fought, screamed. Someone would have heard. But Itaewon at midnight was loud. Music, drunk tourists. Her screams disappeared into the noise. They took her. Oh, God. Zuri's hand covered her mouth. Mom. Marcus fast-forwarded. They hit my apartment 20 minutes later. Same team, same efficiency. The footage showed Marcus being ambushed. He fought better than Lorraine's former FBI training showing. But they had numbers, weapons. They took him too. When was this? Jinwook was already moving despite his injuries, already making calls. 4 hours ago, I've been trying to track them. Nothing. They went dark. Marcus looked at Zuri. Then this arrived. He held up his phone. A text message. A photograph. Lorraine and Marcus. Tied to chairs. Alive but terrified. The message below. The evidence for your family. You have 24 hours. Come alone or they die. Zuri stared at the photo. Her mother's face. Bruised. Scared. Something inside her hardened. Not broke, hardened. We have the evidence, she said quietly. We can make copies. Give them a fake. They'll verify it before releasing your parents, Jinwook said. They're not stupid. Then what do we do? Jinwook looked at her. We give them the real evidence, and we destroy them anyway. How? We upload everything to international authorities first. Every intelligence agency, every news outlet, every prosecutor who's been trying to build a case against organized crime for decades. Jinwook's voice was steel. We make it public. Then we give Baek Ho the original files. They'll kill my parents the moment they have it. No, Marcus shook his head. They need verification time. At least 2 hours to confirm the data is real and complete. That's our window. 2 hours to get them out. Zuri's mind was racing. FBI training from her father, years of watching investigations. We'll need a team, weapons, a plan. I have all of that, Jinwook said. What I need from you is the evidence, and I need you to stay here where it's safe. Absolutely not. Zuri, they're my parents, my fight, my evidence. She stepped closer. I'm not sitting here waiting while you risk your life again. We're partners, remember? Jinwook studied her, then nodded once. Partners. What's the plan? Marcus asked. We upload everything in 6 hours. That gives the authorities time to move before Baek Ho realizes what's happening. Jinwook pulled up a map. The exchange location will be somewhere they control, probably their compound in Songpa. We'll have maybe 15 minutes between when they receive the evidence and when they verify it's real. 15 minutes to get my parents out of a compound full of armed men. Zuri looked at the map. We'll need a distraction. I'll be the distraction, Jinwook said. I walk in alone, injured, unarmed. They'll focus on me. That's suicide. That strategy. His eyes met hers. You and Marcus extract your parents while they're focused on me. My men will be positioned outside. The moment your family is clear, we collapse on the compound from all sides. And if something goes wrong, Zuri asked quietly, then you run. You take your parents and you run. The evidence is already public. Baek Ho falls either way. I'm not leaving you. Yes, you are. Jinwook's voice was gentle but firm. Because if I die knowing you and Grace are safe, I die content. But if you die trying to save me, I die broken. Zuri's hand went to her belly. 7.5 months pregnant now. Grace was real, growing, kicking. She had to think about more than just herself. I hate this, she whispered. I know. If you die, I'll never forgive you. Then I'll make sure I don't die. Did you feel that shift? That moment when hope cracked through the darkness? That's why stories like this matter. People like you subscribe. Because some stories don't just entertain, they save. Marcus cleared his throat. We have 20 hours until the deadline. We should move. The next 18 hours were preparation. Jinwook's men assembled, weapons checked, routes planned, contingencies mapped. Zuri uploaded the evidence. 16 years of her father's work. Every name, every transaction, every recording. She sent it to the FBI, Interpol, the Seoul Metropolitan Police Anti-Corruption Unit, every major news outlet in 3 countries. Subject line, Samuel Amadi's legacy, the evidence they killed him for. She hit send and watched the world start to burn. Within 3 hours, raids were happening. Arrests being made. News breaking across every channel. Baekho didn't know yet. They were about to find out. Zuri stood in Jin-wook's arms the night before the exchange. "Promise me something," she whispered. "Anything. If something happens tomorrow, if I don't make it, don't. Promise me you'll raise Grace. Tell her about my father, about my mother, about who I was before all of this." Jin-wook's arms tightened. "Nothing's going to happen to you. Promise me anyway." "I promise." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "But you're going to raise her yourself. We both are, together." "How can you be so sure?" "Because love doesn't make us weak," Jin-wook said. "It makes us dangerous. And tomorrow, we're going to be very, very dangerous." Zuri smiled despite the fear. "My dangerous king, my dangerous queen." They held each other until dawn. When the sun rose, they prepared for war. The text came at noon. Songpa Compound, 6 p.m. The woman comes alone with the evidence. No weapons, no wire, no tricks, or they die screaming. "They want me," Zuri said. "Not you." "They're not getting you." Jin-wook. "We stick to the plan. I go in. You extract. We all get out alive." His hand covered hers, over her belly, over Grace. "We have everything to fight for. They have everything to lose. They're cornered. That makes them desperate." "Good." Jin-wook's voice was dark. "Certain. Desperate men make mistakes, and we'll be ready." At 5 p.m., they left for Songpa. Jin-wook's men were already in position, surrounding the compound. Invisible, waiting, Marcus rode with Zuri, checked weapons, reviewed the extraction route for the 15th time. "Your father would be proud of you," Marcus said quietly. Zuri touched the necklace. The broken chain was repaired now. The empty pendant hung against her heart. "I hope so." "He is. I know he is." Marcus looked at her. "You're finishing what he started. You're stronger than he ever had to be. You're everything he hoped you'd become." Zuri's throat closed. "I'm terrified." "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." Marcus checked his watch. 15 minutes. You ready?" "No." "Perfect. The best plans happen when you're not ready." Jin-wook pulled the car over 2 blocks from the compound. "This is where we split. You and Marcus go in from the east. I go in the front." He turned to face her fully. "If something goes wrong," "Nothing's going wrong." "If it does." Zuri kissed him. Hard, desperate. A kiss that tasted like goodbye and refusal to say goodbye at the same time. "Come back to me," she whispered against his lips. "Always." He got out of the car, walked toward the compound. Alone, injured, unarmed. The most dangerous man in Seoul, walking into an ambush. For love, for family. For the woman who'd gone from trash to queen and made him remember he was human. Zuri watched him until he disappeared around the corner. Then she turned to Marcus. "Let's go get Mom." Jin-wook walked through the gates with his hands empty. 20 armed men surrounded him. Chairman Baek Min-woo stepped forward. "The Black Tortoise, unarmed. Love has made you stupid." "Where are they?" "Evidence first." Jin-wook pulled a USB drive from his pocket, tossed it. Baek Min-woo caught it, gestured to his tech specialist. "Verify it. Every file. I want confirmation this is Samuel Amati's complete investigation. That will take 2 hours. Then you have 2 hours. The American woman's parents die the moment I have confirmation this is real. Jinwook smiled. Dark, dangerous. You're not watching the news, are you? What? Check your phone, Chairman. See what's trending in Seoul right now. Baek Min-woo pulled out his phone. His face went white. Massive, coordinated raids target organized crime network. 16 years of FBI evidence released. Samuel Amati's files go public. International arrests underway. Korean American crime syndicate exposed. You! Baek Min-woo's hand shook with rage. You released it already! 4 hours ago. Jinwook's voice was calm. Your network is collapsing as we speak. Your allies are being arrested. Your accounts frozen. Your operations shut down. That USB drive you're holding, it's real. But it doesn't matter anymore. The world already has it. Then you just killed the Americans? No, I just made them worthless to you. Jinwook stepped forward, despite the weapons trained on him. You have nothing to bargain with, no leverage, no escape. It's over. Baek Min-woo's face twisted. If I'm going down, I'm taking all of you with me. Kill him. Gunfire erupted. Jinwook dove. His men breached from all sides. The compound exploded into chaos. East side of the compound. Zuri and Marcus moved through shadows. Her heart was pounding. Grace was kicking, sensing her mother's fear, maybe, or just running out of room. They found the holding cells. Basement level, 2 guards. Marcus took them down silently, efficiently. 20 years of training still sharp. Zuri grabbed the keys, opened the first door. Lorraine was inside, bruised, terrified, but alive. Baby girl? No time. We have to move. Zuri helped her mother up. Where's Uncle Marcus? Already getting him. Marcus appeared with Samuel's brother, arm around his shoulders. Let's go. They ran. Behind them, the compound was a war zone. Gunfire, shouting. Jinwook's men collapsing on Baekho's forces from every direction. They made it to the east gate. The extraction vehicle was waiting. Get in. Marcus shoved Lorraine toward the car. Zuri turned back. Jinwook's still in there. He's getting out. You need to get clear. Now. An explosion rocked the compound. Fire bloomed into the sky. Zuri's blood ran cold. Jinwook? Marcus grabbed her. Zuri, you can't. She pulled away, started running back. Zuri. She didn't stop, couldn't stop. She found him in the central courtyard, surrounded, bleeding from a new wound, weaponless. Baek Min-woo stood over him, gun pointed at his head. The black tortoise. Finally, on his knees, Jinwook looked up, saw Zuri. His eyes widened. No, run! Baek Min-woo turned, saw her, smiled. The American woman. Perfect. You can watch him die before I kill you. Wait. Zuri's voice was steady, clearer than it should have been. You want something I have. Information Samuel Amati didn't include in the files, the real locations. The offshore accounts he traced, but didn't document. The people he suspected, but couldn't prove. Baek Min-woo's eyes sharpened. You're bluffing. My father told me everything before he died. I was 10 years old. He made me memorize it. Said if anything happened to him, I'd be the only one who knew. She stepped forward, hands visible. Let him go? I'll tell you everything. Zuri, don't. Jin-wook's voice was desperate. Quiet. Beckman Wu kicked him, kept the gun trained on his head, looked at Zuri. Talk. Let him stand first. Let him walk out of here. Then I talk. You're pregnant. Alone. You have no leverage. I have the last piece of evidence Samuel Amadi gathered. The piece that would let you disappear before the authorities find you. Zuri's hand rested on her belly. That's my leverage. Beckman Wu studied her, then laughed. You're lying, but I admire the attempt. He pulled the trigger. Zuri screamed. The gun clicked empty. Jin-wook moved, even wounded, even beaten. He moved, disarmed Beckman Wu, flipped him, had him on the ground in 3 seconds. You missed something, Chairman. Jin-wook's voice was ice. My men control this compound now. They emptied your weapons 10 minutes ago while you were watching the news. Beckman Wu's face went from rage to terror. Prison is worse than death, Jin-wook said quietly. You'll have years to regret everything. And every day you'll remember that the woman you tried to kill is the one who brought you down. He stood, left Beckman Wu for his men to collect, walked to Zuri. You came back. Of course I came back. Her hands cupped his face, blood on his skin, but alive. You think I'd let you die alone? I told you to run. When have I ever listened to you? He kissed her, desperate, grateful, alive. I love you, he breathed. My queen, my impossible, stubborn, dangerous queen. I love you too, my king. Behind them, sirens. Seoul Metropolitan Police flooding the compound. International warrants being executed. Baekho's entire network collapsing. Marcus appeared. Lorraine beside him. We need to go. Now. Before the police start asking questions about your involvement. They left. Slipped out before anyone could stop them. 3 months later, Chief Prosecutor Zuri Cha stood before cameras, 9 months pregnant. Today marks the end of my father's 16-year investigation. We've successfully prosecuted 43 individuals in organized crime operations spanning 3 countries. Reporters shouted questions about Jin-wook's involvement, Hyun Mupa's restructuring, Gi-tak's sentencing. She'd watched Gi-tak led away in handcuffs, watched him realize exactly what she'd become. He'd looked back once, seen the jade bracelet, the prosecutor's badge, the wedding ring from a man who'd chosen her. She'd smiled, cold, victorious, then left. She had a life to build. The press conference ended. Zuri walked carefully to the car. Grace was due any day now. Jin-wook was waiting. Arm healed. Scars remaining. Transformed. Ready? He asked. For? Everything. She took his hand. Always. 2 weeks later. 3 a.m. Private hospital in Gangnam. Zuri's scream echoed through the delivery room. Jin-wook held her hand, let her crush his fingers. Didn't flinch. You're doing so well, Jagia. So strong. I hate you. I know. This is your fault. I know that too. One more push. Then another. Then the sound that changed everything. A baby crying. It's a girl, the doctor announced. Healthy. Perfect. They placed her in Zuri's arms, tiny, beautiful, already crying with impressive volume. Grace Diane, Zuri whispered, tears streaming. After my mother and the grace we were given. The doctor looked at Jin-wook. And the father's name for the birth certificate? Jin-wook looked at the baby. This tiny girl who carried another man's DNA and his entire heart. Cha Jin-wook, he said firmly. His voice left no room for argument. I'm her father. Zuri looked up at him. She's ours. She was always ours. He held them both. His family. Chosen. Real. His. The wedding happened on a rainy spring day. Jin-wook stood at the window watching rain fall on cherry blossoms. Zuri joined him, Grace sleeping in her arms. The first time it rained, I thought I was dying. The second time, I found you. And this time we choose each other. The ceremony was small, family only. 18-month-old Grace toddled down the aisle calling, Appa, Appa, until Jin-wook scooped her up and carried her to the altar. Pretty Appa, the prettiest princess in Seoul, my Zara. They became a family, officially. When Jin-wook kissed his bride, Grace between them giggling, the rain fell like blessing. 1 year later, Zuri Cha stood in the courtroom where she'd prosecuted her 40th case since becoming Chief Prosecutor. The defendant, a mid-level crime boss who'd thought Seoul's new prosecutor was too soft, too foreign, too female to be a real threat. He learned otherwise. 15 years, the judge announced. No parole. Zuri closed her file, gathered her things. The jade bracelet caught the light as she moved. Outside, Jin-wook waited with Zara in his arms. Their daughter was 2 now. Curly hair, her father's dark eyes, her mother's stubborn chin. Iyama, Zara reached for her. Zuri took her, kissed her forehead. Were you good for Appa? She was perfect, Jin-wook said. Like always. They walked to the car together.
Were you good to Appa?
A family. Normal. Ordinary. Except for the security detail following at a discreet distance. Except for the way people moved aside when they recognized Cha Jin-wook. Except for the whispers, that's her. The one who brought down Baek-ho. At home, they're home now, not the compound. A house in Seongbuk-dong with a garden where Zara could play Lorraine was cooking. Jollof rice and kimchi side by side. Nigerian pepper soup and Korean banchan. 2 cultures, 1 family. Marcus arrived for dinner with news. Ji-taek's parole hearing was denied. He'll serve the full 15 years. Zuri nodded. Felt nothing. He was part of a past that no longer had power over her. That night, after Zara was asleep, Zuri found Jin-wook in their bedroom. She was 4 months pregnant, starting to show. Their son, Samuel Jin-wook Cha, named after the father she'd lost and the father their children would know. I was thinking, Jin-wook said, his hand on her belly, about the first time I saw you. In the rain, broken, alone. And now? Now you're the most powerful woman in Seoul. Chief Prosecutor, my wife, Zara's mother, our son's mother. He kissed her. You went from trash to queen. We went from broken to whole. Together. Always together. The rain started outside. Soft, gentle. They listened to it through open windows. The sound that had once meant abandonment now meant home. Zuri touched her necklace. Her father's final gift. Empty now. But the evidence it had carried changed everything. She'd finished what he started, brought justice he'd died seeking, built a life he'd have been proud of. "Do you think he knows?" she whispered. "My father. Do you think he sees what became of his little girl?" Jin-wook pulled her close. "He knows, and he's proud, so proud. Somewhere in Seoul, another woman was being underestimated. Another person was called something cruel and diminishing. Another survivor was finding their strength. But that was another story. This one ended with family, with a woman who'd been called trash becoming a queen, with a weapon learning to be human, with broken pieces becoming something beautiful, with rain that healed instead of hurt, with love that was dangerous enough to transform everything. If you made it here, heart full and maybe crying a little, thank you. You witnessed a woman go from trash to queen, and that matters. My question: have you ever been underestimated and proven them all wrong? Tell me in the comments. Every story matters, and I read them all. Remember my mom's question about why I tell dark stories? If this one touched you, subscribe. Someone scrolling tonight needs to know they can survive this and become royalty. One more thing. Where are you watching from? Drop your city. Until next time, remember you're stronger than anyone who ever underestimated you. Some love stories are gentle. Theirs was forged in fire, and it burned brighter because of it.